the wealthier the person, probably the less trustful they are, because somebody always needs something from them. So truly, what is the speed of trust? What is the power of that relationship is going to be even more important, and it's going to be very nuanced. But that's where the family office conversation comes into this.
Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to be here today with Kerrie Mitchell. Kerrie, welcome to What the Fundraising.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited for our conversation. Why don't you start by just telling everybody a little bit about you and your work, and then we'll dive in.
Great. First, I do want to say that my daughter bragged about that I was going to be on this podcast, and she absolutely loved, and her friends loved, that the name is What the Fundraising. They all in their 10 and 11-year-old brains were like, oh, that's so, yeah, kid approved.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. And also, so I am managing partner at FSO Partners, and we are a philanthropic advising firm, and we love to say we're twin powered. I run the firm with my identical twin sister. We also have a fantastic team who work with us. We've all been in the nonprofit space for at least 2 decades each. So that aspect of, and each in different types of nonprofits. And one of our team is based in Vietnam. Another one of our team is in Guatemala. We have somebody in New England. So we're all over the world. And our focus very much is curious. Like, our clients are curious. They're curious nonprofits. They're curious family offices or family office staff. They're folks who truly want to lead with purpose and want to understand better on how the power of philanthropy can lead to progress.
Okay, I'm excited. I'm excited to get into kind of the family office lens, because I think it's something we haven't gotten to talk about a lot on this show. And I think it's a little bit of a black box for folks in terms of how it intersects with and how they should be thinking about it in relation to foundation versus individual donor, and sort of where does it sit and how does it work? And it can be so different. And, we're having this conversation in the midst of a pretty chaotic moment in terms of government funding freezes and a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear in the sector. And we were talking a little for a moment before we clicked record about, like, okay, here we are. What possibilities and opportunities does this open up? And one of the things that I like to say to people, although never before in this context, is that one of the great things about a rock bottom moment is that it can force us to change in ways that perhaps before there wasn't enough incentive to change, even though we really wanted to. And a rock bottom moment can really force our hand. And sometimes it can open up possibility and opportunity and change things in certain ways for the better. Not that I'm saying what's happening with the government funding is for the better, but I do want to get your perspective on, okay, here we are, like, what's possible now?
Love that, because truly that is what is possible now. And when honestly, I think all of us are in this space for some form or fashion because we're driven for progress. So with family offices, very much, so much what you talk about on your podcast is relationship fundraising. And it is the space that we can lean into that, because if any of us in our careers or our lives have worked with, or love all of us to have our own wealth, but in that aspect, though, the wealthier the person, probably the less trustful they are, because somebody always needs something from them. So truly, what is the speed of trust? What is the power of that relationship is going to be even more important, and it's going to be very nuanced. But that's where the family office conversation comes into this. I remember a decade ago talking with organization I was with, and I was like, oh, we really need to be talking with wealth advisors. We need to be building relationships with wealth advisors. I didn't have the family office terminology yet. We need to be leaning into that. We need to be developing relationships just like we're doing with leadership donors. And they're like, the lane. The lane was, nope, we do this, we do that. And that's where this point in history, we're going to have those folks and we're going to have those organizations being like, we need to be there now. We need to have developed relationships now. Pause. So many organizations aren't there yet. They're just not there yet. But there is an opportunity. There's an opportunity to develop relationships and to start curating conversations and experiences and building trust, if not with wealth holders, with their trusted advisors. So even just talking about so many spots, family office, what is that? I think is it a dental practice? So even in that of understanding some of the terminologies and who's out there, we have to understand if we are fundraisers, if we are in this space, if we want to continue to drive for progress, wealth is being concentrated. It's fact. Who is holding that wealth and where are they holding it? Family offices, multifamily offices, family management companies, that aspect, it's just where it's going to be. So how we start those conversations, welcome people in, finding out, learning what the family office and what the trusted advisors of wealth holders. I mean, this is all so jargony, but we have to figure out what they value, what they need, and meet them there.
So back me up a little bit. A family office is technically a centralized kind of like wealth management, location, like either where there's a trust or sort of multiple people, a DAF, multiple people giving decisions collectively, or sometimes it's a primary individual. Is it the same thing if it's held in a community foundation? Like, talk to us a little bit about the infrastructure and the differences for folks who might be confused there.
So I would say you're welcome, because everybody's going to keep being a bit confused. So I would say family offices and multifamily offices, if you have any kind of understanding or love or drive to be in individual fundraising, to be in principal giving or leadership giving, that type of fundraising, you're going to love family offices, because as a chief financial officer friend of mine said, you meet one family office, you meet one family office. So there's not this one, this is the definition, is this what, but I'll give you just a general. If typically families or an individual is not going to even look at establishing a single family or even joining a multifamily office type of structure, unless they have, I'd say 50 million, but honestly, it's probably more of like 100 million of assets. And really, there's 5 reasons that they want to start this. They want, and fundraising and or philanthropy, I would say, is 3 of the 5, or at least connected to that. So truly, really, they want privacy. They want control over what they're investing in and how they're investing. Legacy. And those are your top. And then also it's the technology aspect of things. And then your 5th also is just said, I'm going to come back to, it comes back to how they want to structure and build in services for their family. But overall, they're coming together. Yes, it's a single place that they can be, where they have all their assets. They're figuring they're getting everything in one place. And what they really want to do is make sure that their family right now is taken care of, but also that future generations. So that's why they're doing this, is how they make sure that their values and vision for where they are now can keep going.
Got it. Okay. And so when you were saying sort of at the beginning that this is an opportunity to start to build relationships either with their advisors or with these offices directly, it sounded to me, but I'm reading between the lines here, that part of the reason why now is a good moment to start to build these relationships is because likely folks in family offices, like nonprofits right now, are watching what's happening in the ecosystem around impact work and getting curious about how they participate, or are wondering how to participate in the most effective way forward. And do you think they're more open to having conversations with new potential partners now than maybe they were 6 months ago?
So I would say that ultimately this moment in time may not be what's going to motivate them. It is truly, but it does go back to something that they value, that they value family. And what is the one thing, I'd say there's a couple, but there's one thing that truly, over generations of wealth transfer and legacy planning, philanthropy is a thread. It is a thread, and it's a place that families know that they can meet, they can come together. It's this place where there's enough curiosity and safety and community that it brings a family together. So much though of that is more of this moment can be a conversation starter for some of the family office staff to bring back to their.
Mm,
So that would be the tool. So it may not be the overall spark starts it, but it's something that they've been looking for. So
mm.
I know family office, single family office, they have 5 foundations, and the head of the family office last week was like, how? Like we've brought this office up to the technology is updated. We have all of these things, that we have all of these phenomenal services. How do I then bring the family together and sit at the table and have those multi-generational conversations about philanthropy? Because they're still talking about philanthropy the way they did when their great grandfather started. So I would love to say that this moment, and they're seeing a lot of this moment, that is actually for us to help them connect the dots too. This is a great time. And actually, it's a conversation I've sent off of, hey, USG, however you feel about US government funding or not funding, the US government has done a lot of due diligence. A lot of due diligence. Here's lists of projects that may be of interest to your families. That's more of the connector.
Okay, wait. So this is so interesting. So I love what you're saying here. And I think I read your post on LinkedIn recently about this, but now the dots are connecting in my head. So what you were saying at the beginning around kind of like the speed of trust, and like this group of donors tend to be less trusting, perhaps, and maybe more skeptical, right? Like more skeptical because folks are sort of always asking for things because they feel like, oh, they have money, we need money. That must mean we're aligned. But that piece around the due diligence, like if you have lost a big amount of government funding, there is a segue there around like, we have been vetted. We have been a program funded by the government for 10 years that now that funding has disappeared sort of overnight, or might disappear overnight. And we'd like to share with you sort of that level of due diligence, or the reports, the metrics, anything that they've had to be using for that government funding over time can help them sort of like perhaps maybe speed up the relationship building process, or at least the trust component of building a relationship with a family office.
It can. And it also, I would say, and this is going to be hard for some folks to hear, also, if you are not the right fit, if when you're talking to folks, if you are like, you're, this is the value we bring, this is why, if you don't happen to be, but you do know an organization that you've worked with, recommend them. Like that's that other component of trust, of when you're not it, because that's then where that relationship comes, that reciprocal can come in too, of, oh, you're sharing this because this is going to be of interest to the family I work with. I know another family that may actually be interested in your mission. It's that aspect of transactional to transformational that we have to be willing to say, we have to be willing to pause and figure out what they actually value, and pause on what we need. That is so hard to do. But what is it that they need for their clients, or what is it the family is looking to do? And if you're not the fit, be willing to share with your friends.
It strikes me that like there really is a community, like a family office community, or at least like family. Yeah. Okay. She's saying huge. If for those of you who can't see her.
Yes.
And so what you're saying is so important, because I think where folks maybe have struggled to see that type of reciprocity in other areas of philanthropy, like what I've learned about the family office world is that there is so much more of that. There's so much sort of talking between offices, either at the sort of management level or at the family level. And there is just like, if you really show up as a good actor in that way, geared towards finding alignment and looking for alignment, identifying alignment, and both being ready to walk away if there isn't, then you're going to help those folks find the right organizations for them. And you are much more likely to find the right family offices for you.
Correct. It is the business of fundraising, how to raise money, but also how to frame it in that relationship and that trust building and all of those things. On that side of it too, of why we've started working with family offices, we had individual donors that we'd worked with. We had foundations, family foundations come to us and say, wait, can you help us set up how we give and where we give, and setting up that aspect of their due diligence and their trust. And then from there, from listening, learning truly what the family office and within that family office space, what they needed and what they valued. And exactly that of then it was, oh, hey, Kerrie, can you please talk to this? Oh, wait, you need to talk to this person. Whether it was an estates and trust lawyer, it was another multifamily office. It is very, very much word of mouth, even more than what many of us in the fundraising industry and have worked with. It is pretty close knit, and it is it is relationship based. It is join me at this conference. And it is honestly, I think where it's outside the box for so many traditional nonprofits is we spend so much of our time. Okay, maybe I think you and I are similar in that one of we always jumped out of our lane. The folks of us in fundraising and have spent a small or a lot of time in the nonprofit world, if you are somebody who's jumped out of your lane with good intentions, you can listen, you are primed to actually understand what is needed to build trust in the family office space.
Okay, wait, tell me more about that.
So, how many of us, truly like transactional. I know we had that conversation too, where you're like, no, relationship fundraising, but how? And if you're not asking for money, I came from the other side of it, where it was just ask money, ask for money, ask for money. It doesn't matter. Just ask for the money. And there's more here. What is the speed of trust? How do we bring folks in? There needs to be an experience for folks so that they can feel and understand why they're giving, how they're giving. Trust-based philanthropy was something that I was talking about, but different words 15 years ago. So in that saying of, if you are somebody who continues to jump out of your lane and see opportunities that other folks within the industry, within your organization, just don't, they're just like, nope, do it this way. We're going to do it this way. All of the things all of us could repeat over and over again. It just could be a place you shine.
And what I also hear you saying is that it's really not linear.
No.
And so just like with a relationship, right? Like, it's always so funny. I'll joke with folks like, I know we want this like perfect little moves management system, but can you imagine like building a friend and being like, okay, so like our first meeting, let's go for coffee. And then our second meeting, maybe you can come over to my house, but only for an hour. And then our third one, we'll meet at the park and we'll see how that goes. And then after that, and you move everybody through this. It's not how real relationships are built, which for fundraisers who are overwhelmed, who are doing way too many things, all we want is predictability, linear control, the feeling of control, all of those things. So how do you recommend for that fundraiser who's listening to this, who's like, okay, I do feel like I have some of those out of the box skill sets. I'm a good relationship builder, but I'm also kind of terrified by this like uncertainty that this type of relationship building might be. How do you recommend they manage that?
Awesome question. If you're not in an organization or you have a team lead that will support this, please bless and release this. It's not the time. It's not the organization. Just please release that from your shoulders. What I would say is wealth advisors. And so if that's where you want to start, because that is the other aspect of understanding. If you don't have a good researcher in-house or you don't have access to a good research, when I've got some folks who are amazing because that's just gold, then wealth advisors. If you can, AI, whatever it is, just start narrowing down. And wealth advisors, I would say, who are working with people with probably $5 to $10 million and above. Come up with a small group of those, do a bit of your own research and treat them as their own segment. Treat them as that on you're developing a relationship, you're sending them information, you're asking for those introductory meetings. So if you need some linear points, there are some of those aspects of things. And I would say true, like pure hack, what wealth advisors are going to value, and I would say more of your 50 million above, your wealth advisors, your family office staff, what they're going to value are you understanding the speed of trust, that you are going to listen, that you're going to do all those other things, and that you will bless and release if there's not a match, and that you have an experience for them or the people they're working with. If you have an experience within your organization that their clients will benefit from, that they can bring their whole family or at least a few of their family members to, that's huge for them. They're looking for places to connect with each other. And so if you have that, wonderful. If you don't, please don't create it. Don't do that to yourself. And then also what they're valuing are, if you've done some of the due diligence for them, like here's the things, this is where we fit into this for you. The other thing that they very much value are, I would say, actually, I do. I'm going to go back to that. It's the experience. It's the experiential fundraising. I'm just going to say there, because I can so go into the weeds on this one and be like, no, we can do this. No, it's that experience that they can bring the family members to.
That makes sense. I mean, I think it's always really helpful to sort of understand the lens through which people are looking at organizations and having to make decisions and the things that they're being held accountable for, right? Like, I think the thing for us to remember is like that manager has a set of expectations that they're being held accountable to. And when we sort of go in there and we make it all about our perspective and we don't take into consideration what they value, what their job is, what any of those things, that's really how we miss the mark and we miss these opportunities for building these connected relationships over time. Okay, I could talk to you forever, but I'm looking at the time. Tell folks where they can find you, follow you. You should definitely be like follow along because you are always posting such helpful stuff about this.
So our website is fsopartners.com. And also LinkedIn, Kerrie Mitchell. And then I have my CAP certification. So that's on there as well. Those are the best places right now because I post articles on our website and typically also on LinkedIn. So that's the best place to find us.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation today.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you for everything that you bring. You truly are that deep breath for so many of us who either have been in direct fundraising or have burned out and then recreated themselves in other places in the world, because that is what you are for me. You're just a deep breath. So thank you so much.
Thank you.